Welcome. We are so glad that you are joining us today as we discuss math lessons for a living education. We are specifically going to speak to the topic of switching to math lessons for a living education. My name is Caitlin Morris. I'm a homeschool mom of four. I have three boys and a girl, and I've always homeschooled. And it's just been a joy to have been able to switch to this program and to get to share with you today. Joining me today, I have Christy, Danielle, and Laura. So, in that order, would each of you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Christy, a homeschool mom of 15 years. I used to teach in a classroom and thought I never would want to be one of those homeschool moms, but I am so thankful that the Lord moved my family in this direction. And I have homeschooled three of my daughters, and we're down to my last one in ninth grade now.
Hello, I'm Danielle Hauser, and I'm one of the moderators in the app. This is my ninth year homeschooling. I also was a classroom teacher for 4 years before starting a family. I have 7 kids, boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, 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 and I homeschool 5 of them right now. The oldest is 13, and the youngest is almost 2 years old. And my husband and I have been married for 14 and a half years now, and we've had quite the adventure.
Hi, my name is Laura. I am a homeschool mom of one little boy. He's in first grade. He's 6 years old. I've been married for 7 years, and I am also a moderator for Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, Christy, what challenges were you seeing in your previous math curriculum that really prompted you to consider switching to math lessons for a living education?
When I moved to homeschooling, again, it was not something I really wanted to do. So I brought all of my classroom curriculum home with me. And as I started first just homeschooling one daughter, but then adding in two and then a baby, it was clear that I was not going to be able to teach every lesson, 8 subjects a day. And math, especially, was just getting harder and harder. I had a daughter who really was melting down every time we got to math, and we were having hour-long battles, lots of tears, temper tantrums, and I just was at my wits' end. And as a teacher, I shouldn't be there. This should be easy. I should be able to teach one child math, but it was not working. So we had to find a switch, and we had to find something else that worked. And I'm so thankful the Lord led us to math lessons for a living education.
Danielle, what would you say would be your experience with the curriculum that you were using in math and the feelings that you had associated with how that was going for you that led you to seek out some research and that led you to math lessons for a living education?
So, the first thing that I was looking for with math, I taught math in middle school. And so I was looking for something that looked very much like what I was teaching in the classroom. I thought that's the best way to teach math because that's how I was teaching it. And so I picked something for my kindergarten student. And that's when I started homeschooling, was right in kindergarten. So I thought this is going to be great. This is exactly what he needs. And we would sit down and do it. And he would fight me on it every single day. And he would cry. And I even would cry. It was so frustrating because kindergarten was taking forever. This is kindergarten. And this should not take forever to do math pages in kindergarten. And I knew something was wrong because, and I remember talking to my mom about it and saying, I just don't know what to do because we're fighting every day. This is kindergarten and it's supposed to be fun. I remember kindergarten being fun, and this is taking up so much time. It's causing us to have this relationship that I didn't want to have with my son. And so I started looking for something different, and I didn't know exactly what I was looking for. I just knew it needed to be different. And I was praying about it, and the other curriculum that we were using besides math, it wasn't as biblical as I wanted it to be. It touted being biblical, but it was not. And so I started looking in that direction, and the Lord led me to math lessons. And I was like, no way, I didn't know there was a biblical math program out there. So that's actually what drew me into math lessons in the first place. And then as I was looking through it, it looked so different than anything else I looked at that point. Then it looked so different than what we were doing. And I thought this looks really cool. And I just really felt like God was the one leading me to it. So that was really neat as well, because it seemed just everything kind of lined up in that way and pointed me towards that's what we needed to make the switch to.
And Laura, what are the components of math lessons that drew you to choose this program?
So, first of all, the faith based approach to mathematics. That is what drew me in. Second, I love that it's written to the student. So, even at my son's young age, there are lessons that he can pretty much do independently, and I just oversee. Another thing that I love about it is that it's not filled in with busy work. So I notice a lot of the other curriculums tend to include, like, I'm going to exaggerate here, but let's say about 20 to 30 problems of the same topic, when in reality, that's not really necessary. I mean, a short amount will do, they'll retain it better, and it'll keep their interest longer.
Yes, absolutely. Us personally, we were using a program that took 1 hour per student in math. And I was really lost at a convention for homeschooling. I didn't know what I was really looking for any of my curriculum. And I just stumbled across this booth. I was with a friend. She chose it. So I was like, okay, sure. What works for a friend may not always work for you. And I really tried it. And it was expensive, so that felt like maybe because it's really expensive, that's got to be good. And because this is so rigorous, this has got to mean that, man, we're going to have some amazing mathematicians. Well, 4 kids in, I could not do that. And you know the feeling you get when you maybe you don't know this feeling. I do. Maybe if you were speeding a little, you get pulled over, that feeling of like, oh no, that oh no feeling that you might get. That's the feeling I realize I was feeling every day with math. Just this on edge, stressed feeling of not knowing what's going to happen. And I felt my world around me just crumbling. I wasn't getting to the other subjects that needed attention. I wasn't really giving very good attention to my other children because I was so zoned in on one kid and trying to just get their math done. And I was not a kind mommy. And so coming to the realization that I needed to make a switch was almost feeling like a moment of defeat. But I had to get past that feeling that I was doing my best. It was not for a lack of merit or effort. And it wasn't my ability to teach. It was recognizing that the program was not the right one for our students. And we had begun already using master books for a variety of things, but math was that one subject I just felt like I didn't want to let go of because it would mean admitting defeat, but it wasn't. And as soon as I took the readiness test for all of my students and placed them where they needed to be, and we got those books, their countenance changed. They went from something black and white and long and boring to this colorful, beautiful curriculum that they instantly loved. So I was wondering, Christy, if you had a similar experience and what math lessons resolved for your child as it did for mine.
Well, my original reason for looking was for my older daughter she was in 5th grade at the time. And yeah, math was not working. We were definitely having battle after battle. And like you said, it was taking so much of our day. And she's the one who I've really focused on, or I was focusing on in our switch. But my second daughter, math comes simple or easy for her. So she was doing great. But I figured, if I'm going to move over my older one, why don't I just go ahead and do the younger ones too? And one daughter that I haven't spoken of much is my youngest, who sounds like she was stuck in a program very similar to yours and Danielle, you reminded me of this, because kindergarten and first grade were nowhere near as fun as they were supposed to be. And why not? Why not try something and see if we can start enjoying homeschooling? Because homeschooling 3 with multiple battles, especially in math for my oldest and youngest one, but it really was driven by my 5th grader going into 6th grade, and knowing I could not go on. I was crying too. My poor husband probably dreaded opening the garage door to come in the kitchen because he knew I was going to just download on him how many battles we were having, especially with math, because he likes math and he does really well in math. So I was ready to just put all of my math troubles on him. So it became clear that we really did have to make a switch. Something that would help, I was looking for something that would help my daughter understand math. It would not keep turning into a battle where we were against each other. We were just really pushing. We needed something that would help us walk hand in hand together and not be mom, teacher against student. And mom keeps having to put her foot down, to get the subject done. And then for my youngest, something that also was just causing her to not enjoy first grade. So learning is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be something that you dread. And that is what really caused us to start looking and praying, Lord, lead us to something else, because this is not working. And since I was a schoolroom teacher, that's all I knew. I had no idea there were homeschool curriculum companies that wrote it for moms of multiple children, because you can't teach every subject to every child. And we could all sit at the same table, and that each child could work on their own subject right there together as a family, and we could enjoy math. So that just was such a wonderful experience for us to change and realize that, wow, we could have had this 2 years ago, but that's okay. No regrets. The Lord took us through that. And then when we found math lessons, it was such a blessing to myself and my girls.
I know. I think we wish that we would have made different choices and regret the feeling of failure, or saying I wish I would have chosen this sooner. But sometimes choosing something else and it not going well, it is the daily reminder. We don't want to go back to that, and sometimes we need those experiences to help reaffirm the choice that we've made now, so that we can see them compared and have that reassurance that math lessons is working. And I know it's working because I know what didn't work. And so please don't discredit the journey that you've been on to take you to where you are now. It's just something that a lot of homeschool moms deal with, and trying to find what works. And it's all a part of the process. And so the purpose of this time is to encourage you, if that's where you find yourself today, go ahead and evaluate what's working and what's not working, and encourage yourself to make that switch. So Laura, when you first started using math lessons, what ultimately surprised you, or did you enjoy the most right when you got started with the program?
How fun the lessons were. So, technically, my son would have been able to start with level 1, but I did have him go through K at an accelerated rate. And I just saw his happiness. There were a bunch of little games there. I remember hopscotch, um, the little tasting activity with the apples. It was definitely different. It did take some adjustment of mind on my part, but I got to see that my child was happy, and that ultimately is what we want. We want to see them happy, learning, enjoying math. Now, if you just need to adjust the pace, we'll adjust the pace, but let them go through it.
So Danielle, what routines or tweaks would you say helped your child adjust to the stories or the story-based learning that is included with math lessons? Because that is a unique feature.
When we first switched to masterbooks, the story just it was just something that my son really enjoyed. It wasn't we didn't really need to do too much of an adjustment with that. It just was something that we read at the beginning of each week, and he enjoyed doing that. Now that I have more students doing the stories, it's hard for me to keep up with doing that with each of the five that are doing the story. So we have had to make some adjustments to that. One of the biggest adjustments we've done is the academy videos, and you can listen to the story being read levels 4, 5, and 6. So that was actually very helpful for my older kids as we moved into that, and they could just listen to that on their own. Other than that, it wasn't too big of an adjustment to us. I thought it might be. My son has a hard time sitting still and focusing, but at that age with kindergarten, the stories weren't quite as long to read for him, and he did fine with it. So I didn't really notice that there was too big of a transition there. As a matter of fact, because he was having such a hard time with what we were using before, and it just had him so overwhelmed, it was kind of refreshing to be like, "Ooh, math can be in a story." And so it actually was a pleasant surprise for him and something that he looked forward to at that time, because it was, I don't want to use the word boring, but it was what we were doing before. And so it was just so much, so overwhelming and just not fun, totally disinterested in what we were doing, that it became a breath of fresh air for him, because he does actually like reading and he does enjoy stories. So we didn't really need to adjust anything. It just kind of came for him as something he liked.
So, Laura, what advice would you give to parents on choosing the right level if they might be afraid that they're going backward or they're just not sure what level to choose? What advice would you share when it comes to placement?
So, first, I would say do the placement assessment. Look over the table of contents as well. Like, there's sample pages online that you can go and see. Take into consideration what you already know your child kind of already knows, but most importantly, consider their personality. So, some kids are okay with going back a level and working through it faster, and for some kids, it just doesn't work? So, find the level that works well for them because you want to keep that happiness going. And for some kids, putting them back might produce boredom, and that's not what we want.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to keep the joy in our homeschool. We envision the way that we want it to be, but then there's the reality of what it is. And a lot of that can depend upon the level that they're placed in, meeting them where they are so that they're not bored and they're not overwhelmed. And I really appreciate the readiness assessment so that we can meet them where they are and really see them succeed. I mean, I know in our own switching journey, I was so afraid of going backward, especially coming from a program that was extremely rigorous. And again, I really felt that this program was going to make my kids the smartest kids in math on the planet. That's how it was built. And I now know that that was really silly to think that way, but I think we just carry this fear, I guess, of wanting to make it the best. We have sometimes these pressures that we place upon ourselves as moms to perform or to just do anything that we possibly can. That comes from a place of love, but sometimes it can be misplaced. My kids didn't need their mom to be nervous, anxious, scared, and mad or short with them over math. They needed a mom who had time to do things with them. So as my husband has done so many times, he saw in the situation something that really needed to change, and I'm so glad he said something. I probably would have just kept going and kept struggling and kept fighting because I really couldn't see the dynamic like he could. Much like Christy said, when maybe he got home, all he heard was how horrible everything was, and so he's like, I think it's time to switch. So I really was afraid of going backward. But he said, think of it more like you're just taking a pause. You're just stepping over here to the side. You're not losing anything. Try it out, see what works. And that encouragement is really what I needed. I was really homeschooling out of fear instead of a hope for change and hoping that it would get better. Of course, it did get better, and that little step to the side became a step back onto a new path, and we just kept going forward. I'm so glad that he saw in our situation something that needed to change and said something, and I'm so glad that I listened. So if any of you are out there feeling some of those same feelings, I encourage you to take maybe a self-assessment of how it might be going for your student, how it might be going for you, because your experience matters too as moms. And ask your student, maybe ask them some questions. What do they like about math, or what's hard about math? Maybe ask them a hard question. When do you see mommy get upset? And I don't want to be upset, and see what they have to say about some of those kinds of things. Um, that can be really hard to do, but I promise it'll be really worth it to experience the difference that master books can make in your homeschool. So, Christy, did slowing down or speeding up strengthen your child's foundation when you found the level that she needed?
It did. Slowing down, and I didn't realize, kind of like you just said, homeschooling out of fear, because as moms, the last thing we want to do is mess up our children. And math, that's a really easy area to feel like we're messing up. And then to slow down, well, clearly I'm not doing something right if we have to slow down, or, we just keep talking to ourselves in these ways that aren't helpful. But to slow down and to just let our child grasp a subject or a concept in math really can help going forward. So I would encourage any mom who feels like, okay, we are stuck here on fractions. So we moved into level 6, and that is decimals, a lot of decimals, fractions, percentages. It's a little bit more of those harder concepts where they're applying the multiplication, the addition, division, and subtraction that they learned. Um, and I did see that there were some things that we were struggling with in our foundation. So to give ourselves first the permission to say that it's okay to hang out right here on adding fractions. And we're not going to move on for another couple of days. It might take a little longer. It might only take one day to just hang out and practice adding fractions. I love how math lessons brings in the real world math, how math applies outside of the textbook. Math is just not numbers on a page. It's something we do in real life with dad building a deck, or measuring for carpet, measuring for furniture to see if it's going to fit in the doorway. And of course, we use it all the time in the kitchen. So when we can slow down and help our students see that math is applicable, and we do want to know how to use it, and just give them that confidence before moving on, it's a really big deal. But some moms, as Laura hinted to, they might have children who, if you slow down too much, they're so bored, why even do it? So then it is okay to let them move ahead at a faster pace, and they will slow down naturally. They'll come to a time where they need to just, oh, wait a minute. I think I do need to put a little bit more effort or thought into this new concept here. So when we let our children take it at their pace, it really does help.
Thank you for sharing. Danielle, how would you say that math lessons maybe has changed the emotional atmosphere surrounding math in your home? If you had students that may have been struggling or may have felt anxious or some of those more negative feelings, how would you say math lessons has turned the tides for you in the area of their emotions or their feelings about math?
It was a tremendous change for my oldest, especially because he was the one that was using a different curriculum before. And we don't have very many of those days like that with any of the kids since then. So all my other kids have been going through math lessons from the beginning since we made the switch. And our fifth is doing piggy math this year, and he really loves it. And there is a lot of joy, especially in those younger years, that that I miss that my oldest didn't get to have. But like you said, Caitlin, that I don't want to have those regrets about having a difficult kindergarten year, because that helps me remember if things are hard or things are challenging. I don't want to go back to that. This is what's working for each of my kids, and each of them have different days where things are difficult or challenging, but for the most part, they're able to sit down by themselves and do a lot of work by themselves. And if they get stuck on something, I can help them, and I'm right there to work alongside with them with that. But overall, the mindset towards math in our home is not one of frustration. My second daughter, at the beginning, she had some difficulties with math. To speak, she's not as math brain. She's an artist. She just doesn't have that as much with her. But I've seen her grow so much, and math is not something, as we've worked through it and we stuck with it, she is not dreading math. She is enjoying it, and she has worked through it. And not every child is going to be as math minded, and that's okay. And she was able to I was able to work through these things with her and use some of the practice makes perfect to help her, and work alongside of her with that. And the more practice that we do using the manipulatives, sometimes the temptation is to skip that, because it's like, ooh, like you were saying, Caitlin, just sometimes those things are difficult, and we're like, it's more time consuming on our part. And so we think that, well, because it's going to take up more of my time, then maybe we'll skip that for now. But it's to their detriment that we do that. And so it's important not to skip those things. You could maybe adjust them. For example, I just went in with some of the fraction kits and things like that. We just reuse them, or if we need to, instead of having one of the kids make their own, still going to get the same process done. They still can use it as their manipulatives, but we can reuse manipulatives if we need to. But we've all made our own Mr. Gallon or Mr. Measure. Those are all, we have lots of those. That guy's amazing. We love Mr. Measure in our family. It helps me when I'm at the store. But I enjoy the assignments too, and I enjoy the projects. And so we're all having fun. And like I said, we're not going to have perfect days. We're not going to have days that are totally minus tears all of the time. Especially just getting at each other with just because we're sinful, and so we're going to have days where we're not motivated, where we're feeling lazy, where we're frustrated, and I'm frustrated, and it just adds to it. And so nothing is going to be perfect, but the overall general atmosphere of our home is so much better and what I had wanted it to be at the very beginning. And so we do have fun together. And that's something that I have always wanted when I wanted to start homeschooling, is that we could make those memories. And so I am very thankful for the switch, because we went from tears, frustration, anger, for me and for my son, to far less of those days. Personalities are going to lend themselves to that still too with him, but that's okay. And overall, we just have a lot of fun together with those assignments and with those projects. And I just see that that burden that was there in my heart is gone, because I know that we're on the right track with things, and for each of my kids, and we've stuck with it with all of them, and I'm planning to do the same with my 6th and 7th when they get to it. And that's how much that I know, and I trust the process, because I know what we came from, and now I see what each of my kids is doing, and they've had much better kindergarten years than my oldest. He's got to be the guinea pig, right? The first is going to be the guinea pig there. But so yeah, I very much am happy with with the change we made, and we've been doing this now for my 9th year homeschooling, 8 years, so that we've been using math lessons, and we did have to go backwards, because we were not on track when we did the placement test. And so my son has been working behind a grade level, and that's okay. And he's okay with that. And we don't talk about like, oh, well, you're really a 7th grader and you're doing 6th grade. It doesn't need to be that way. And that's what I love about math lessons as well, is it's not this is grade 1 or grade 2. It's just book 6 or book 5. And that's how we've been operating there. And it's worked really well for us.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I do want to say God bless the oldest. It's a tough thing to bear, but we're thankful to all of the oldest and all of the youngest. Say thank you. So, Laura, how have you seen your child grow in confidence and with independence as a result of math lessons?
Well, when it comes to confidence, um, I'll admit that my son was a little worried about what he calls parrot math this year. But he was worried, it's normal. He's like, "Oh, multiplication, it sounds scary." But it has helped him with that gentle approach, like I said, bit by bit, day by day. No excessive busy work. Um he I would say he's confident now. So it's helped him grow in independence because I've seen it. I mean, since he started last year when he was working on level 2, I noticed that since he's able to read as well, he's able to go on there, read the problems, and just work them out himself. It's the way that the pages are set up. It's very straight, very direct, and like you guys have said, it's written to the student. It's very kid friendly. So, I mean, by now, he is pretty independent. It's kind of more of me just checking up on him here and there to see, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Christy, if you only had 30 seconds to encourage a mom to make the switch to math lessons, what would you share with her?
Oh boy. First, I would say pray about it. Take your concerns, take your burdens to the Lord. Lay them at His feet. He cares for you. Math lessons has been such a blessing in our home. It's taken the stress out of math, it's taken the overwhelm and allowed my daughters each to pursue math and grow at their own pace. And I love that it speaks right to the student, the biblical worldview that comes into math. Who knew that math would be something that God created? And it's a tool that He has given us for His creation. So I would say try it, take the jump, and ask the Lord for guidance and help.
Thank you. What about you, Danielle? If you only had 30 seconds to encourage a mom to make the switch to math lessons, what would you share with her?
I would say that the same with Christy. Definitely pray about it and recognize that you probably have some already these thoughts in your head about what math has looked like because of your past, because of how you were taught. And this is going to be different, but it's going to be different in a good way. It's going to be something that really helps your student and enjoy learning, but also because they're enjoying it, they're going to grow faster in it or stronger in it because they aren't resistant to it. So definitely know that you're going to have these preconceived ideas. This is what math should look like, and allow yourself to have those walls torn down, to have a change of heart about what you think math should look like. Because I did that, and I regret thinking that math had to be one way. And so make that change, go for it, and enjoy the process. And notice that you'll have a lot of memories to make with your kids too, because that is something that with homeschooling we get the blessing of doing, is growing alongside of our kids and making memories with them.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, moms, we encourage you to assess what's working and not working and be willing to jump in and make a change. You will be so glad that you did. And we just invite you to experience the peace and the refreshment that comes from utilizing math lessons for a living education from Masterbooks. Christy, Danielle, and Laura, thank you so much for sharing your time, your experience, and your stories with us today as we've explored making the switch.